So I wanted to do this video the other day when MSNBC dropped it, but it's of James Carville. He is pretty much like the Democratic Party guru, political strategist for the past couple decades. Um, I think that some of the things that he is hitting on is correct, but the real problem is kind of preface it. I don't think that the Democratic Party has what it takes. Um, Possibly someone like Ro could possibly do it, but the real big problem with the Democratic Party, they don't have anybody with a backbone, balls of steel to really be able to go in there and steamroll the whole entire party like someone like Donald Trump would be able to do. That is the real problem with the Democratic Party. It would truly have to be an outsider. Um, I think that the Democratic Party truly fucked up on several fronts. You cheated Bernie Sanders in 2016 with the super delegates. You cheated Bernie Sanders again in 2020 with Super Tuesday. If anybody hasn't seen the Vice documentary called The Bernie Blackout, you should definitely go watch it. Um, as someone who's not necessarily a democratic socialist, um, I have studied communism and socialism. I had a communist professor in college. I did a lot more deep diving than the books that he just recommended. I think that Karl Marx, in certain ways, properly critiqued capitalism, but the real problem is, um, in order for socialism to truly work, you would have to assume that the 435 positions in the House of Representatives would be full of people who have the heart, mind, and agenda of Bernie Sanders. Then you'd have to go to the Senate and assume that 100 of those senators have the same. Of course, you'd have to have the same with the non Supreme Court justices and the whole entire alphabet community. And the reality is, socialism in this country, um, as we know socialism, could not really work. Now, if you really want me to give my dead honest opinion, this country is actually ran by Fabian socialists. I recommend anybody to look at the uh, Creatures of Jekyll Island, a second look at the Federal Reserve. You would understand that um, Fabian socialism is literally just printing so much debt that the Federal Reserve actually starts to buy shares of these corporations. So if you look at kind of what happened during COVID, if you look at what happened during the 2008 crisis and other crises over the past hundred and so years since the, the institution of the Federal Reserve, which is actually not a government agency, if anybody knows, it's a private bank ran by private financiers. But in 1913, Woodrow Wilson even kind of came out and said that he regretted, signing the Federal Reserve into act. But um, socialism, it's a debate for a later time. But I definitely wanted to look at what James Carville had said. I really think the real problem is the Democratic Party doesn't have anybody um, who is truly of the working class, from the working class. I think that from here on out, the Democratic Party I'm almost 85% certain they're shot. You're not going to be able to bring a Kamala Harris or Barack Obama. You can't just bring a person of color. I'm not going to say that these individuals are black because there's obviously some discrepancies on these individuals, but you're not going to just be able to bring um, a person of color and assume that you're going to be able to get the votes. And you're not going to be able to bring somebody who's so out of touch, who literally, graduated from elite universities. Obviously, Howard is not the elite of the elite when you talk about PWIs. It is obviously the elite when you talk about HBCUs, Kamala Harris. Um, you're not going to be able to get somebody from Yale or Harvard, Columbia. Um, and who went straight into politics right after. The real problem is you're going to have to get somebody who's an outsider, who is really part of the working class, for them to be able to relate to the working class. As somebody who is in blue collar, um, a lot of the blue collar boys are not going to trust just some elite individual. Um, you can say that they might, because of course a lot of blue collar guys are supporting Donald Trump. The only way for the Democratic Party to truly be able to come back without having this quote unquote individual is if we do have a true recession, depression. Donald Trump ends up being in a Herbert Hoover incident, um, like 1929, Great Depression, which is very possible. I don't really want to get too deep into economics. It's not that video, but let's just review what James Carville has said. I think that he is right in his interview, but I think he's also wrong for the simple fact, you know, um, Bernie Sanders had a shot. A lot of people under 40, 45, um, they gave the Democratic Party a shot with Joe Biden, and it just didn't work out. So, um, and also, you know, unwavering support for Israel is obviously going to destroy um, the relationship between the Democratic Party and the young. So here we are.
Prepares to depart the executive mansion. Many questions surround the future of the Democratic Party. And recently, during the 20th anniversary of the Clinton Library in Little Rock, Joe Scarborough sat down with Democratic strategist James Carville, as well as former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, and asked them both how Democrats can rebuild the party's relationship with voters.
You all have been in politics most of your adult life. I have for most of my adult life. We understand that elections are won and lost, and another election is coming right away. But, James, I want to talk to you about the fact that right now there's so much second-guessing, so much fighting, there's so much carping going on. If you go out and make a suggestion, there are going to be 1,200 people yelling and 1,200 people on the other side. What's your advice to not only Democrats but independents and Republicans that want to see a different outcome 2 years from now?
Well, definitely. The first thing I would do in terms of this campaign, when a plane crashes, they don't say, let's look forward and forget about it. They say, no, let's go find out. Maybe the flaps were set at the wrong angle. Could have been a maintenance problem, or was it? So you find out. And I don't think we need to, but I think we need to find out. I think it was over $3 billion spent on our side. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What got wasted? Where was the area of concentration? I mean, with a military operation, if you got the title table wrong, they're going to come back and investigate and say, what did we, you didn't figure this out, or where the troops are going to land, or anything else.
So when he's talking about this $3 billion, Kamala ultimately fucked up. You're trying to get Quavo, Meg The Stallion. Um, that's not going to get all of black people. Um, I do think that that was the wrong idea. Um, there are other more professional black folks. There's more black folks that are in construction, trucking, nursing, mental health. I mean, there's a lot of areas that you could have went to that represent the working class, but instead we're gonna go get Meg The Stallion to twerk. Um, I don't think that was necessarily called for. I don't think that was an ideal move. Not because I have a problem with Meg The Stallion and Quavo. Of course, I listen um, to. Well, I used to listen to the Migos when they were still a group and stuff like that. And they do got a couple good songs, but it's just when you're talking about politics, it's not necessarily appropriate. So, and then when you go to um, Al Sharpton, he no longer represents black folks. Um, we as a whole are not a monolith. We do have various ideologies, whether it's conservative, liberal, um, center right, center left. So Al Sharpton doesn't necessarily speak for us. Plus, Al Sharpton has a lot of issues dating back to Martin Luther King and the assassination, and um, how he just somehow moved out of the way and didn't get shot. There's just a lot of questionable things with Al. So we just don't really trust him. And then when you go to somebody like Oprah Winfrey, I mean, most people don't even have cable news anymore. So to literally assume that she has this huge platform that she did maybe 10, 20 years ago is just it's a flawed thought to think that she can overwhelmingly reach the young. I mean, of course, Oprah can reach a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s because she's been around that long. But the real problem is the disconnect with young folks. And, she didn't do enough. We can, if I have the time, we can look at how her own strategists and the own people working for her own campaign pretty much openly admitted that in almost a large way she kind of abandoned black engagement. She just thought that she necessarily owned the vote. And the reality is there's questions about her her race. There's questions about um, her ability to really convey convey what she actually thinks. The real problem is she gets up here, she can't articulate a complete thought. She can't be challenged. She can't be presented with questions that she hasn't already prepared for. And so, just even kind of like looking at the way that Obama communicates and the way that she communicates, of course, Obama was very slow to speak. you know, he was very calculated in what he said, but he could be put in pressurized conversation. He could be put in challenging situations. He can convey and articulate a thought, whether or not you agree with his policies. He was a great communicator. Um, Whereas Kamala, she was really just given these positions, dating all the way back to Willie Brown. So yeah, you know, $3 billion wasn't necessarily a problem, um, but it did kind of hold her back because she thought she had all this money, so she was just going to be able to buy her way into the position.
I mean, you represented the Naval Air Station in Pensacola. You think if they fly one in there and drink, how many investigations they're going to have? Because you got to find out where was the bug and fix it. So I do think some analysis, a retro look at what happened in 2024 can have some value.
And Terry, any thoughts about what Democrats, independents, Republicans who want a different outcome 2 years from now, what do they need to do now?
We got to talk to people at home about the issues that they actually care about. Bill Clinton always talked about quality of life, jobs, personal income going up, and we're missing it. I mean, obviously that message did not resonate in the last presidential election. We got to talk to people about how you make their lives better, quality of life, fixing their roads, giving them health care, great education, personal income up. And that's what we've been about. That's what our party's been about in our whole history. And we can't get off in these side tangents and let other people define what your message is. Stand up and fight for what you believe in. And we got to do that harder.
And by the way, Jim.
But I think what this governor actually gets wrong is it's no longer about messaging. You have to deliver for the constituents. And it's not just about the Democratic constituents. You have to deliver for independents and Republicans. If Republicans can get in there and they're like, damn, I got money in my pocket, I can feed my kids, I can fill up the gas tank, it's not breaking the bank, I can make my mortgage, I can make my rent, I can, afford health insurance, I can afford food, I mean, then you're more likely to win them over. So it's not necessarily just a messaging problem, it's a delivering problem. And yeah, Bill Clinton was able to deliver this message, but the reality is he sent, thousands of potentially millions of jobs overseas for the globalists, for the oligarchs who wanted cheap labor. And so, when you look at NAFTA, you look at TTP under Barack Obama, and you look at all this money and jobs being sucked out of America. And, when you really ride through, the Appalachians, you ride through the rural areas, you ride through, you know, these urban areas, and you see it's almost like a bomb went off. You see these warehouses that have, closed down. I know specifically out here in North Carolina. I live not too far from Dale Earnhardt. He worked at Cannon Mills. It was a very big mill that supplied towels and sheets and a lot of the fabric kind of necessities for a home. Well, all those jobs went overseas. You look here even closer in Concord, North Carolina. We had Philip Morris. That went overseas. Well, we kind of went to Virginia and to France. So, I was riding through St. Louis, and you see all these warehouses that have closed down. You go to these towns in Appalachian. Even now, where's the funding for Western North Carolina? Where's the funding for Eastern Tennessee? These towns and these cities, suburban and rural, have been devastated. And the Democratic Party can sit here and message all they want to, but if you're not delivering jobs, you're not delivering um, an economic agenda that literally puts money in people's pockets, puts money in people's savings, then you're not talking about nothing. And the real problem is you look at a lot of the jobs that Obama, quote unquote, brought back after the Great Recession. Many of those are low-paying jobs. The numbers are cooked. Most people had to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make it. Um, a lot of the people who lost their housing um, weren't bailed out. Wall Street came in, bought up a lot of these single family homes. Um, I was even just watching a video on a more perfect union and how they're going up, how Wall Street now is going over here and buying um, trailers. We haven't put a stop on Wall Street buying homes. We haven't put a stop on the Chinese and other foreign nationalists buying up property. And, we sit here and allow the Democratic Party to sell out the working class to the highest bidder and to the lowest economic to any individual who's willing to take the lowest economic value for the production of work, including the H-1B visas. Um, and we love to have open borders, not necessarily at the Democratic Party as a whole, but under Democratic, well, at least under Joe Biden. You have open borders to literally um, lower blue collar pay. So it's just it's bigger than just messaging.
When I ran, a lot of people told me, "You're way too conservative for me, but I'm going to vote for you anyway because I feel like you understand me, you understand my family." Sometimes there's so much talk about ideology, but you look at Fetterman in Pennsylvania. You look, Democrats won a seat in Arizona, Gallego. He's progressive. But people weren't thinking he's progressive. They were thinking he gets me, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what it's about?
It is. And Ruben, excuse me, Senator-elect Gallego was the first person I heard him say, "I don't know anybody who uses the term Latinx." I think he was born in Mexico. If he did, it was 2 feet on the other side of the border. But the biggest problem we have, Joe, is large numbers of people in this country, they don't even think about Democrats. They just think we're an urban old party. Terry was governor Virginia. I have a place out in the Shenandoah Valley. If you talk to them about Democrats, they would be confused. And we have to reconnect with rural, small-town, mid-city America. You know, you look at this, I don't know what it is, a tragedy in New York about this United Healthcare, but what it is exposed that people do not like these health insurance companies. There should be a bill right now to introduce the Healthcare Insurance Access Act of 2025. Right? If you just tell people you see them,
Right.
I know your struggles. You're gonna do better.
And Terry, you know this.
But this is what I'm getting at with James and all these Democrats. Well, if we just, you have to deliver on policies. Like, why are you not introducing a public option? Okay, cool. You want this premium XXXXYZZ triple platinum gold diamond health insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United, Humana, whatever, cool. But if you want to save a couple dollars and buy into Medicaid, you're more than welcome to, and he's just talking about labeling some random ass bill that's not going to uh lower medical costs, prescription costs, or anything like that. He, and it's not going to give you better coverage. He's literally just saying title, fucking Obamacare 2.0, Insurance Access Act of 2025, Affordable Care Act, whatever, 2.0, 2.30. Like this shit doesn't make any sense. So, you're not delivering with real policies. You're just talking about it, or, we're just going to label it the Inflation Reduction Act. It had no basis on lowering inflation. And of course, like, you can sit here and say that, yeah, Biden capped prescription drugs, and he did pass a small infrastructure bill, but you're talking about $100 billion going to roads and bridges. I mean, that's cool, that's great. I'm not gonna sit here and knock it, but we can send $100 billion to Ukraine like that. And to really think that $100 billion for roads and bridges is enough, considering that a lot of these companies are going to pimp out that price. And what would normally, let's just hypothetically say we're going to redo I-85 and it was going to cost $100 million. And then they say we're going to have it done in 3 years. Well, by the time it's all said and done, it's probably going to take 5 or 6 years, and it's probably going to end up being $300 million. So, by the time it's all said and done, you're talking about 50 states. You're talking about multiple interstate highways in every state. Then you're talking about just regular highways within the state. And I mean, it can get very complicated. You're talking about bridges, ports, um, that have to go over water. Yeah, I mean, you can put a label on something, but it doesn't mean it's actually going to benefit the people.
Yes. If there's a Republican governor in the Deep South that says, I don't want the Medicaid money, what he's doing is telling people in rural America he doesn't want money to help their hospitals. He doesn't want money to help their moms and dads in retirement homes. I mean, shouldn't this be a message that's easier for Democrats to tell people in rural America?
For 4 years as governor, I pushed Medicaid expansion. Whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, you get $4 billion back into my state of Virginia, save rural hospitals, help people get health care who have a pre-existing condition, whatever it may be. It's a simple issue. People want to be healthy. You know what? Life's not complicated. They want to make sure their kids have a quality job with nice income in it. They want to make sure they get in the roads and the roads work. They get health care, great education. This is not rocket science. And that is what we should be talking about. That's our history. As governor, this is all I focused on every day. How's personal income? How many jobs we create? Are the roads working? That's why I actually love governors, because, we've got to balance budgets. We don't have deficits. We run your health care. We run your education, build, clean your roads. That's what we need. Talk to people about the things that they're experiencing every single day. This is the greatest country in the world. We got to bring people together.
James, give people out there hope that don't have hope right now.
Well,
But I will, as somebody who drives way too much between Virginia and Florida. I know for like the past couple of weeks, it's just been Virginia to Florida, Virginia to Florida. And I mean, of course, I've went to Kansas City and I've been to all these other places. But I will say, please drive through North Carolina. Please drive through the Virginia. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that every road is perfect and every bridge is perfect because it's not. But I will say, for the most part, we have well maintained roads. Um, just don't judge us on 77 at Davidson at Lake Norman. Whoever, well, it was Pat McCrory, but that was some dumb nigga shit right there. But as far as our road quality of roads, is very well maintained. Then drive through South Carolina and Georgia, and I gotta call a spade a spade. Um, we Virginia, North Carolina, we've got Democratic governors, and if that has anything to do with the roads, we have better roads in South Carolina and Georgia. I'm just gonna say it because South Carolina, I don't know how many trailer tires and drive tires on a semi truck that I've popped fucking with y'all niggas, but y'all gotta get this shit to fucking together. I-95 is ass. 85 through from through Greenville, Spartanburg through Greenville is complete trash. Y'all got to get that shit together. I'm not gonna lie.
Because we're Americans and we think we don't have hope. It turns out we do have hope, and I think we can be an effective opposition party because that's what we are. We don't have any power. People have to get over that. And it is hope when the Democrats say we're going to run everywhere and we're going to talk to people everywhere, and we're not just a coastal party. And we lost some great senators, Manchin, Casey.
Nah, fuck this nigga. Um, fuck Joe Manchin. Fuck Kristen Cinema. I mean, Kristen Cinema. Hey, you're definitely a milf. You look good. Your outfits is cute. I give you credit. But the fact that you're a social worker and you're a complete fucking sellout to the corporation, Joe Manchin, Maserati Joe, you're a sellout to the corporation. Um, you obviously, Joe Manchin, I don't even know how West Virginia kept voting for this motherfucker. But yeah, yeah, fuck them. But Christian Cinema, definitely kind of cute.
We lost
Tester. Sherrod Brown.
Tester,
Yep.
Sherrod Brown. I mean, we lost some.
Yep.
We lost these seats, and what I continue to hear right now, the Democratic brand is not a brand to run on, but a brand to run from, and we have to change that. We have to make our party brand better. We have real work to do there.
So, Mike Barnicle, an illuminating conversation there. What's your sense there? How do Democrats make the Democratic brand better rather than a brand to run from?
Well, first of all, Jonathan, there's no way I can come close to the expertise of James Carville and Terry McAuliffe. I mean, one's been on the ballot, one's run successful campaigns for the last 40 years. But I will tell you this, you're just observations, just sidewalk observations. The Democratic Party has to do one thing above all else, and that's get younger. Get younger, more approachable, talk to more people. Forget the focus groups if you're running for office, whether it's state representative in your state or the United States Senate or the presidency. Forget focus groups. Get out of your car and walk the sidewalk and talk.
So I totally agree. I have been to Republican general meetings. I've been to Democratic general meetings. Um, and I will say that the Democrat Party and the Republican Party definitely here too. Um, but since this is a Democratic Party talk, not saying that the Republican Party doesn't have the same issues, but everybody in there is geriatric, 60, 70 years old or older. Um, when you have people in there willing to challenge the status quo, you get upset, you get pissed off when you're gonna, like for me, I asked Josh Stein when he was Attorney General a couple years ago, what are you gonna do about marijuana? I've asked him several times at several meetings when he comes around trying to get votes. And the people in there, you get mad, but the reality is Josh Stein had power to legalize marijuana in the state of North Carolina. And yet you want young people to come. But no, you what you really want is you want young servants to knock these doors for you and to not change, to not progress, to not change the status quo. And just as simple as something like marijuana could have easily, solidified the Democratic Party in the state. But now, I mean, Josh Stein somehow was able to win. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that, um, what's that nigga's name? Um, what's that black nigga's name? Hold on one second. Yeah, Mark Robinson. Um, that's what pretty much made the pathway citizenship, the pathway to the governor's ship, um, completely easy for Josh Stein. Mark Robinson was just a flawed candidate. Um, the abortion thing was huge. Him being against abortion, him and his wife having an abortion was huge. Um, him on that porn site talking about fucking his wife's sister and all this other stuff. I mean, bro, yeah, y'all really fucked up by running Mark Robinson anti-Holocaust, anti-American Jew. He just had many um, flawed statements that he made in the past, many flawed stances that he currently had. And but I really think that if the Republican Party would have ran a more sensible Republican governor candidate, um, can't think of his name right now either. Um, remember his face, but I can't think of his name. But if they would have ran a more sensible person, Josh would have probably fucking lost. It's just a fact. But yeah, same thing that can be said with the Republican Party. Most of those people in there are, 60, 70 years old. I think you should be no older than like 55 to about 30 running for state politics. 60, 65, the fucking max. If you're eligible for, Social Security and retirement and to get your 401k without being penalized, then you should definitely be considering spending time with your kids and grandkids and, retiring, not just from your normal 9 to 5, but also from politics. But neither here or there. I think the Democratic Party is bigger than just messaging. You do have to deliver. Um, and yes, he is right. You do have to have some young folks. But the problem with the young folks is there's a cultural war that is attached to that. When I was growing up, being woke was kind of like, you know, September, that day in September, never forget, was, you know, an inside job. It was well known. Um, the deep state killed JFK and all sorts of stuff. Like that was us being woke, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Now being woke is literally just a whole bunch of shenanigans. So, I mean, it's constitutional right to believe in whatever shenanigans you want to, but the real problem is the geriatrics, these elders, they don't want to give up their power. They don't want us to run. They want to hold on, cling on to power. They don't want to change, at least an economic agenda. I do believe in changing, at least on the economics. Um, but yeah, so let's finish this out. And
to human beings about their problems. And here's what you'll find out. America is worried about a couple of things. If they have families, they're worried about, they hope their children don't get sick. They hope their children get a great education. America is about the future. It's not about the past. It's about the future. They have to address the future in solid, sensible ways that are meaningful, from the price of gas to the price of eggs to the price of a college education. Talk about the things that impact people's lives. That's it.
No more talk, just deliver. And until the Democratic Party actually delivers and, stops making everything about the cultural war, um, then yeah, stop sucking oligarch PP, and yeah, I think y'all have a chance. But the only way for y'all to seriously have a chance in the midterms, 2026 midterms, and possibly even in 2028, is if Trump ends up being Herbert Hoover, or just, it's really up to Trump. It's not even really up to y'all anymore. It's actually up to Trump. Unless you just have an outsider like a Jon Stewart, Sean Fain, or something like that, then I think that it's pretty much over. You got to have somebody with some balls, and y'all don't. Y'all are misandrous to y'all's core. Y'all hate anything with testosterone. So, who knows? But that's it, ladies and gents. Y'all be good. Peace.